Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, theFellowKGB, and it is Saturday evening. It's about almost 6 o'clock. We're joined here with Jesse Meineke at theFellowJGM on Twitter, and we're going to be talking some player prop bets using DraftKings Sportsbook. So I'm not in a legal state for DraftKings, but I do use some other websites. But Jesse has been using DraftKings Sportsbook, so I don't know if you want to talk about that for a little bit and what you've been doing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome. Thanks for having me on the show, Bauer. It's our first prop bet segment. Hopefully we can make this a weekly thing and hopefully win some money along the way. That's the plan here. If you're in a legal state or if you're not in a legal state, you can find ways to make it happen. So DK, they're running all these promos. If you're in a state where the app is eligible, sign up. You get these boosts. So this week 3, you get 20% boosts. You get one for each game. So take advantage of those things. If you're a new user, you pretty much get all the fun little promos. You can bet $1 to win 100 on any game. Also, there's this new app called PointsBet. They're coming out hot. You can throw $20 down this week. If Aaron Rodgers throws for one passing yard, you get $150 in site credit to use. So if you're in a legal state, all these apps, they're trying to soak in all the customers. So just even if you don't want to use the app, maybe try every single one and find the one that you like the best and enroll with that. But you get free money. So you might as well take the free money and run with it, right?
Try it out for a week and see what happens. I think
exactly.
Maybe with our next show, we'll look at PointsBet and see what those player props are, and we'll just kind of show off their website too. But I think what we're going to do here is we tend to like the receiver yards and over-unders. It's kind of like playing fantasy football, just with putting money on their receiving totals. So we're going to probably look through all the receiving totals here, and then we'll kind of work towards rushing yards, and then we'll look at some select player props that we like. But starting with the Las Vegas Raiders and New England Patriots, I don't know why, but they only have 2 players for us to look at, Edelman and N'Keal Harry. I don't know if you care for either of these.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And it's weird that there's no Raiders at all. They must just not feel comfortable in the lines for that one.
No, and I know Henry Ruggs is out. Darren Waller's questionable. I think maybe they'll upload some tomorrow morning or something. But I'm pretty safe to say I don't really want to bet any prop in the Raiders-Patriots game. I don't feel comfortable with what's going to happen there, I guess. But this Bears-Falcons game, does anybody – Tariq Cohen, 18.5 yards. David Montgomery's just at 14.5, and he's been catching a lot of balls more than usual this year. Otherwise, does Allen Robinson? I know their starting cornerback, was it A.J. Terrell, is going to be out this week. Anything here on the Bears-Falcons receivers?
Yeah, the first thing I looked at was Cohen, 18.5 receiving yards. Week 1 and 2, he hasn't quite gotten the usage that we've expected for that paycheck that came, but they have reiterated that we want to get Cohen involved. And this is one of those games, it's the Falcons. They're going to be throwing the ball. They're going to be putting points on the board. And so maybe it's a game where Tariq Cohen finally gets that little breakout. We've seen Falcons in the past be pretty susceptible to running back receiving. So I like that 18.5. That's a good line. Montgomery as well, 14.5. You can see that one's been bet up a little bit, now minus 125. I think both running backs are going to get some usage, and I can see both those hitting. So I'm probably taking Cohen at 18.5 there. That's kind of like a mid-conviction play for me.
Yeah, and it's just weird. Like, his usage has just been so mind-boggling from what we were accustomed to. I think his snap counts were like below 25% last weekend after they just give him all this new money. So I think they're going to be like, hey, let's use Tariq in this one. And like you said, the Falcons are going to be trying to put up points with Ridley, Hurst, and Gurley and all these weapons. So I think this game could be kind of like a track meet game where the defenses just kind of can't stop each other. And I really like the Bears offense going against the Atlanta defense is just banged up right now. So I kind of like all the Bears players for fantasy tomorrow. So except Anthony Miller. I wish they had a Darnell Mooney line in here, because I'd probably bet the over.
Darnell Mooney. All right.
Yeah, let's move on to the Texans and the Steelers. I'm trying to think of anyone that you probably know I'm a Jordan Akins guy, and I saw him at 25.5, and if he's getting another 7 targets this week, that feels like a pretty safe bet. Otherwise, I did notice they have Deontay Johnson higher than Juju Smith-Schuster this week, and I wanted to bet Deontay, but I don't like that he's higher than Juju.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, it's going to be a 1A, 1B, where 1 week Juju gets the points week 1. Week 2, Deontay comes in, he gets the looks. I think it's just whoever Ben's feeling that day is going to come in and get the points. So this game in general, it's one of those games where it could be a high-scoring game. It could be a defensive showdown. I don't really like anything strong enough to kind of recommend making the plays here. If Will Fuller, if he's healthy and on the field, 55.5 seems easy, right? But what's going on with that hammy? 0 targets. I mean, what happened last week?
Yeah, this whole game kind of feels like I want to stay away. Maybe we could look at the James Conner rushing yards over on that side of the other spectrum. But otherwise, yeah, Will Fuller 55.5. We can't really trust it, but that seems like if he's going to play a full game and get his normal targets, that seems like a smash. Otherwise, I was kind of looking at Eric Ebron's interesting at 30.5. I think he had 43 yards last weekend. And I really don't think the Texans can guard tight ends that well. But again, I don't really feel like 100% like, hey, like this guy's going to hit this for sure. So I'm kind of okay with avoiding the Texans and the Steelers this week. But I think there's going to be some good bets here on the Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles lines. Do you have anyone that sticks out here?
Yeah, I think AJ Green last week, just on air yards alone, makes you think he's due for a 100-yard game, and he's sitting at about 53.5. Assuming those targets stay his way, you can see that line's kind of already been bet down.
100, man.
Yeah, I know that's an interesting one. So
easy big money.
Maybe they're saying Tyler Boyd's going to be the guy now, but I mean, the fact that AJ Green just got so many targets and just, he didn't look terrible. He didn't look great, but he didn't look awful. And I mean, it was good coverage on a lot of those throws.
Was it 13 targets last weekend? Only 3 catches or something like that? Yeah. So if he's going to get another 10, 12 targets, you would expect him to be able to hit 53.5 pretty easily. Anybody else here on this list?
Yeah, I know we mentioned Deshaun Jackson earlier. He's been playing well. He's got 6 targets and 9 targets his first 2 weeks. He almost hit the over on this number in week 1, hit it in week 2. And, I mean, they just don't have anybody else to throw the ball to. If the Bengals are able to put points on the board, Deshaun Jackson's going to have to come into play again with another, maybe 7 or 8 targets.
I can't name the starting cornerbacks for the Bengals. So it seems like, I don't know. I like the Eagles' offense. I think they're going to be able to move the ball pretty well. I mean, it's only going to take Deshaun Jackson like 2 catches to get 60 yards. So if you're feeling like getting into this game, I think Deshaun Jackson over 55.5 is probably my favorite bet of this game. And then one, just because I'm excited to see more T. Higgins, I think 28.5 is pretty low for him. He played outside of Tyler Boyd. He got the most snaps last weekend. So he was on the field more than even AJ Green last weekend. And he gets the start over John Ross. So it seems like they want to get Higgins involved in the game. So I'm kind of watching that. Maybe next weekend we can if we get a good game from Higgins this weekend, maybe we can look at the lines for the next week. Yeah. Anything on Miles Sanders? 27.5 is kind of high for a running back, but
yeah. When I first was looking at the week, I was excited to see Miles Sanders props because I figured he came back week 1. He had, I think, a 72% share. I mean, he was dominating snaps. And so I was like, hey, let's see what he's got. And everything came in pretty high. And I guess that's expected. It's a pretty plumb matchup for fantasy purposes. I mean, DFS purposes, it's probably the chalk of the week. So everything's just a little too high for me to really feel confident betting one way or the other. But he probably smashes. I mean,
there was something I saw on Twitter. I think it was Scott Barrett that tweeted it out, but about Tyler Boyd lining up in the slot against Nickel Roby Coleman. And apparently Coleman has allowed every pass his way to be completed. And if he's going to be lining up on, so I'm kind of thinking if I had to put my money on any of these players, I kind of think Tyler Boyd 56.5, just because Joe Burrow, he's already shown that I'm going to hit the slot pretty easily. He still hasn't shown us the ability to hit the deep balls yet, but he's very comfortable with Tyler Boyd kind of throws and the Drew Sample tight end kind of throws. So it feels like Tyler Boyd's probably the best option, I think, for the Bengals passing attack.
Sure.
Do we even want to talk about the 49ers and the Giants at all?
Yeah, I'm not taking any of these lines. I'm not personally betting anything on the Bengals Eagles either, but it'll be fun to watch. 49ers Giants is just it's a JV game, so
yeah, I don't even want to play this game. Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick one, I like Golden Tate over 40.5. I think he's going to probably lead that team in targets. If it's not him or Evan Ingram, I would be surprised. So 40.5 seems a little low, but yeah. We don't need to talk about it.
I agree with that.
Anybody in the Rams-Bills game catch your interest?
I mean, I know you're a big John Brown guy, so I'll let you take it away on this one. Okay,
so you are the LA Rams, and you have Jalen Ramsey. Who do you put Jalen Ramsey on this week against the Bills?
It's going to be Diggs, no doubt.
It's going to be Diggs. So who do you think they're going to throw the ball to?
John Brown, man. He's played pretty good at weeks 1 and 2 as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I want to pull up the John Brown stats real quick. Jalen Ramsey's going to be on Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen's going to be able to test him if he wants, but I just think that John Brown's going to be, 70 yards here, 82 yards. He's playing the Jets and the Dolphins, which I know is, it's not great. But if you put the best corner on Diggs, and the chemistry between John Brown and Josh Allen is pretty undeniable at this point. I saw a quote from John Brown earlier this week saying he's never had more fun in his career playing football than what he is right now in Buffalo. There's good vibes, I think, flowing with John Brown. And if you put it at, like, if this was 59.5, I'd be like, but it's under. If he gets 50 yards, like that seems pretty reasonable for a bad game. He's going to end up in that 50 to 60 range. So I think John Brown's my favorite. He's probably my first guy that I'm willing to put money on that we've talked about so far. And then I really didn't think anybody else caught my eye in this one. Was there anybody that you thought you might be betting on?
Yeah, no, this is another game where I didn't really have any. I looked at the lines and nothing really stood out as being favorable one way or the other. Diggs had a huge game last week, 62.5 though, and being covered by Ramsey. I'm almost tempted to take the under. It looks like the betting public has pushed that over actually to minus 124. So
yeah,
but all in all, nothing here that I'm personally betting on or willing to claim a stake.
As far as noon games, though, I think when I was I did my my noon games. The way I've been doing my podcast lately is I've been doing them in parts. So I talk about all the noon games in one podcast, and then I'll pivot and do another podcast of just the afternoon and then the Sunday night, Monday night games. But when I was talking about the noon games, I thought this game might be the most attractive game to have on the TV, just because it's it's a 2-0 team, 2-0 team, and I don't know. Both these teams are going to probably be in the playoffs this year at this point, which is kind of cool. I think Rams are, and Evan Singletary, he gets to get the. We'll see if he gets the workload that everyone really wanted to this summer. I don't know.
Yeah.
That feels probably like the best noon game to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Two playoff teams, and no Zach Moss. Let's see if Singletary gets his fantasy week.
Yeah, I'm also interested. We talked about the Ramsey-Diggs matchup. I'm interested to see if Tre'Davious White just shadowed Robert Woods the whole game. Because maybe, Cooper Kupp at 54.5. I don't know. That could be kind of nice. We just saw Devontae Parker have a really nice game. The reason why I like Cooper Kupp is because Buffalo could not cover Mike Gesicki last weekend, who pretty much gashed them in the slot, which is where Cooper Kupp's going to be. So I could see myself maybe coming onto this 54.5 number for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, Kupp is due for his first big game of the year, I think.
Washington football team and the Cleveland Browns. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of our favorite plays, for both of us, is Terry McLaurin, 62.5. I think we're smashing that one. I'm willing to put 2 units on that one this week. It's going to be no Denzel Ward. It's going to be no Greedy Williams. We saw McLaurin break 100 last week, and we saw him go for, I think he had 61 yards in week 1. So this game could be an interesting one. We're waiting for Haskins to really have that first great game, and this could be a chance against the now susceptible secondary. Yeah, so Philly 61, 125 last week. He's the go-to guy. Who is he competing for on yards right now? Logan Thomas?
And Thomas is just like the low yards, but 7 and 10 targets. We don't expect Washington to really be a great offense, but we do expect Terry McLaurin to be clicking when everything else might not be. So you're probably looking at a range of 9 to 10 targets this weekend, 6 to 7 catches. And he's gonna get over. This was a bad game for him for Philadelphia, 61 yards. So I think that's what it's gonna take. But like we said, no starting cornerbacks are available for the Browns this weekend. I think they're waiting to call. Was it Denzel Ward still questionable, or did they take him out?
I think they officially listed Ward as out. Greedy Williams may be the questionable one.
So I'd like using RotoWire for their practice reports. You just click on the team here. They've labeled Olivier Vernon out as well, which is kind of a big deal. But Greedy has been ruled out. Denzel Ward's questionable, but he didn't practice the last Friday, so I'm assuming he's not going to play. And then looks like there are others. So it looks like Kevin Johnson's probably going to be drawing coverage on Terry McLaurin. So I don't know. Terry McLaurin at 62.5. I think that's the one that I'm probably putting most of my chips in this weekend to be a hit. Anything else in this game look interesting to you?
So just covering the game, I mean, I'm a little intrigued by Gibson's 15.5, but we haven't seen the receiving usage to really trust that yet. And then, we don't have to go over the QB passing yards, but Baker, I'm going to hit Baker's. I'm just going to make a point here that I'll take Baker under every single week until he proves me wrong. It's a new offense. It's a new system. And I don't know if the bookies are just, they're trying to keep his line high enough, but I'll take the under until he proves me wrong. I think it's at 239.5 this week.
So to make our point even stronger, I mean, only 189 yards against a good Baltimore defense.
Yeah.
And this was his best game. Everyone was raving about how good of a game it was. He only had 219 yards.
It was a great game for him. And
they were in control, though. They were able to run the ball and stay on schedule with the offense.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Washington's front seven is going to get to him, right? Like, he's going to get sacked probably at least 3 or 4 times.
They're going to be trying to do the same. Cincinnati week 2, it's Washington week 3. They're going to try and do the same exact game script that they had last week, and I think it's a better front seven. So it's going to put even more pressure on Baker and, Baker versus pressure. We've seen it, year after year now.
I'm just in my head, I'm imagining something for the offense this week for Cleveland. It's going to be somewhere in between the Baltimore and Cincinnati game, the range of outcomes. So I would say maybe 200 passing yards. He's probably going to get another interception, maybe a touchdown or so. But they're going to try to, in order for them to win, they need to run the ball 30, 35 times. So passing yards are probably a good bet for the under there. Let's move on to do we have anything for the Titans in the Vikings game?
Yeah, are you really going to bet Derrick Henry yard total? I mean, you're not going to bet his receiving yards. His rushing yards, it's over 100, I believe, which is, it's always risky to bet a 100-yard rusher. I don't feel great about anything here on this side. Corey Davis, Adam Humphries. It's going to be. Ryan Tannehill doesn't really favor one guy. He just finds the open man.
Yeah, this feels like a low volume passing day for Titans again. Like maybe Tannehill throws the ball another 22, 24 times. But it seems like they're going to want to try to run the ball with Henry as much as they can. So I think I'm just avoiding this game from all aspects of it.
I have no bets on that one.
And I probably don't have any receiver prop bets for the Jets and the Colts. I don't know if anything sticks out to you.
No, the only thing this Colts team is Hilton's on the Grandma narrative now. Grandma called him up this week and said, hey, you're not looking like yourself. Who's that on the field? So maybe he steps up and feels a little more motivated to show his grandma, make her proud. But I'm not willing to bet money on Grandma.
Yeah, I think with the whole Colts offense, I think I kind of need to see a little bit more. Michael Pittman played the most wide receiver snaps for this team last weekend. Again, they took Michael Pittman Jr. ahead of Jonathan Taylor, which I find super interesting because to me that means when they're up to draft and they're like, okay, we have to choose one of these guys. Who do we think we need the most? Like they took Pittman over Taylor. So I think they're going to try – now that Paris Campbell's likely done for the year, I could see them really wanting to get Michael Pittman Jr. more involved. So 42.5 seems kind of low. I'll be watching him again this weekend to see what the potential line would be next weekend. But, it's the Jets. So, he's going to – I think all Colts have a really good potential here. I'm disappointed they didn't put anything in for Mo Alley Cox. They have Jack Doyle here, which is –
I would like to see it.
Who wants to bet on Jack Doyle? So, a little bit frustrated here. They don't have any Jets prop bets because I think Chris Hogan's probably their number one receiver this weekend. So, we already talked too much about the Jets and the Colts. So, anything on the Panthers and the Chargers game, man? This one's going to be kind of fun. I think I might like watching this one on the red zone or seeing what they got for the scores here because I think it might be kind of a wild game with Justin Herbert and Teddy Bridgewater, no Christian McCaffrey. It's so unpredictable.
Yeah, I think on the Carolina side, that's what makes me nervous about this game, and I kind of glossed over just when you lose Christian McCaffrey, who's such a big focal point of the offense, where are they going to go from here?
Efficiency coming down, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Nothing really sticks out to me as far as overs. DJ Moore at 63.5, Robbie Anderson 51.5. Those seem low. We don't expect this. The Panthers offense, they can move the ball. They showed they can move the ball last weekend against Tampa Bay, but that was kind of garbage time. So I'm kind of just throwing everything that we saw last weekend out the window. But what do you think about Mike Davis at 30.5 receiving yards?
The fact that he got 8 catches last week is pretty interesting. I actually really like Curtis Samuel this week. Like I said, is it going to be on the ground? Is it going to be through the air? I don't know. I don't have enough answers to know and feel confident to put anything down on this game.
So when I rewatched the Panthers Tampa Bay game, I think they only lined Curtis Samuel up in the backfield twice. I think he only got the ball once on those, but otherwise they're using him on jet sweeps a lot. And even if they're not going to give him the ball, they'll still run jet sweeps with him and throw the ball elsewhere. So I think that's going to pretty much remain the same. So if he gets maybe 4 or 5 carries, that wouldn't surprise me. If he gets more than that, then I would be surprised just from watching the offense last week. But I'm trying to think of anything else here. We really, with Justin Herbert being the quarterback, we can't really trust any of the Chargers until we see a little bit more information. I might be interested in some of the rushing bets, though, if we look at Josh Kelly on the other side. So maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. But anything, I guess I'll let you talk about the Broncos and the Buccaneers because I think we got one that we both agree on.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it's highlighted. We both like it. It's Chris Godwin coming back out of the concussion protocol. He was out really early, too, which is really, that's a positive sign. He was able to get almost a full week of practice in. And 58.5 for a guy who, I mean, what did he average last year? I know it's with Jameis Winston. It's a little different situation, but we saw last week Brady was there was visible frustration with some of his receivers that weren't named Mike Evans last week. So he gets Chris Godwin back. Who do you think he's going to be looking towards?
I just think Chris Godwin is kind of like he is like the Christian McCaffrey of that offense. That's going to keep them on track, keep them converting third downs, putting them in good third down and short situations. Godwin, he's an all-pro receiver. So, like, when you add that back into the mix, Tom Brady's going to be having a much better day. That's just going to lead to a whole much more stats for the offense. So, I think Chris Godwin at 58.5, I was just looking around here. So, how many times did he hit that last year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, he hit that 9 times out of what? How many games? 9 times out of 14 games last year. So, the odds are in our favor. He's basically the Julian Edelman type main go-to target for this offense. So I even kind of like the Mike Evans over 63.5 because AJ Boye is out again.
Is he out again? I mean, if he's out, I like Godwin even more. I mean, I feel good enough about Godwin to put 1.5 units down on him this week at 58.5.
I don't remember seeing Boye get put on IR, a 3-week IR, because he's not on this list. I'm pretty sure he's out.
So I mean, if that's the case. They also are out with Harris is out this week. I mean, we got. Can we look into this AJ Bouye? Because I might then take Mike Evans as well, and just. I mean, I think there's a nice consolidated target window, target pie for this offense between Evans, Godwin. You got the 2 running backs in the backfield, and then I think OJ Howard's really maybe emerging as that tight end over Gronk.
Kind of sneaky at 18.5. I think if he goes over again this weekend, I might be more inclined next weekend.
Yeah, I agree with
that. Say Brady throws the ball 30 times this weekend. 18 to 20 of those targets are going to Evans and Godwin. So 63.5 and 58.5. I think I might even say that, I want to bet the over on Evans there. Any interest in why don't they have KJ Hamler on this list? What the hell?
I know that's an interesting. On the flip side of this game, so I mean, we love Godwin this week. Evans is probably a low conviction play for me. I really like Melvin Gordon at 17.5. Just looking at no Sutton now. Jerry Jeudy's banged up. If Jerry Jeudy is for sure out, I'm going to smash Melvin Gordon over. I'm still probably going to lay down a unit on 17.5 Melvin Gordon.
What do you think of Noah Fant at 42.5?
Yeah, the Jeudy Fant both have 42.5. I mean, Driscoll is going to sling it. We saw him in Detroit, what he did. He likes to sling the ball, man.
So, I mean, Tampa Bay is like my go-to team. That's like my second favorite team. The thing about Fant is I'm worried about him being covered by Levante David, and I can't even remember our fucking linebacker's name. I just swore, but that's okay. Who's our linebacker that we just took last year from LSU? Stud, number 45. Why can't I think of his name? Blazing speed. Devin White. There we go. So we got Devin White, Levante David. Is Noah Fant going to be able to get the best of those two? They're both amazing coverage linebackers. I think Devin White leads the league in tackles right now. I'm not sure on that. But I'm nervous about this Broncos offense just getting shut down completely.
It could be bad.
I think the Melvin Gordon play is pretty good at 17.5.
Yeah, well, think about the Bucs. I mean, they have one of the top rushing defenses in the league already, and they don't have Courtland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy's beat up, and Font's going to be facing these great linebackers in coverage. So, I mean, who's your playmaker then? You put Gordon in space and try and get him the ball.
So he's only caught
Phillip Lindsay.
He's only caught 22 yards on the year so far. he's gonna have to. They're gonna have to use him more in the passing game with not having Sutton, maybe no Jerry Jeudy, and if, like I said, if Fant is getting covered by these linebackers and they're looking for Hamler and stuff, I don't know. 17.5. I think I'll take the over on that, but I'm not gonna like bet the house on it. But it might be just a nice little swing play.
Yeah, definitely. I'll for sure look and see if Jerry Judy's playing tomorrow or not. If he is playing, I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be a strong conviction play. I'll probably still throw down a unit on it just because I think he's gonna hit it. But if Judy's out, it's a must. It'll be my lock of the day.
Do you have any locks in the Lions and Cardinals game?
With Kenny Galladay coming back, that puts me off the Lions. Just knowing where the targets are going to go, how healthy is Kenny Galladay?
Does he play a full amount of snaps?
Yeah, so there's a lot of question marks. Anytime there's a lot of questions, more questions than answers in a game, you just don't bet it. Don't force a bet if you don't see it. On the other side of the ball, we know Hopkins has been getting fed. He's up. The Lions' defense has been susceptible this year now, so maybe he hits his 80.5. But are you really going to take an 80.5 over?
Yeah, I don't like if that was maybe 72.5, I'd be like, okay, I'll think about it, but it's just a little too high. Maybe this game just gets out of hand really quickly. They're not going to be able to stop Kyler Murray. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Kenyon Drake. I don't know how much they're going to need to pass. I guess I'm kind of just cool with this whole game in general. But the one game I think you have to take a stance on is Dallas at Seattle this weekend. What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we got a little bit of everything here.
Over everyone.
And here's the other thing. We like a lot of overs. I think it's just more fun to cheer for overs, right? Like, I'm taking under on Baker, but pretty much the rest of my bets are all going to be overs just because, that fantasy mindset, you're trying to, like, when you're setting your lineups every week, the way I look at it, I'm always trying to find the guys that are going to have good days or better than expected. So that's how my mind's thinking. It's like I'm thinking about the guys who are going to have good days, not guys who are going to underperform.
Another thing, too, on that, I guess, idea is if you bet the under, you literally have to sweat it out the entire game through all the garbage time. If you bet the over, there's a chance you could hit that as early as the second quarter, third quarter. Like you can secure the winner. It just feels like the player wins, you win. It's a double win. So a guy like Tyler Lockett at 69.5, DK Metcalf 65.5. I'm super interested, but I think I needed to pull up the stats for the Cowboys that we were looking at. I think it was the Seattle Seahawks defense. So if we go and look at this is basically fantasy points allowed to the wide receivers so far by defenses. And we're going to see here Seattle versus receivers. They are the worst team guarding receivers this year. They've allowed 731 yards. The next closest is 571. And that's the Dolphins, who have played 3 games. And then you can see here by fantasy points that they allow 67.5 PPR points to the receivers. The next closest is 53. So this is just coming up Dallas receivers everywhere to me. So, I'm not going to argue. I think Amari Cooper's a little high at 70.5, but Michael Gallup, 56.5, CeeDee Lamb, 16.5. Those two I think I'm smashing. Do you have any other takes on this game?
Yeah, so Michael Gallup there, quick point. People might be thinking, oh, Gallup, he hasn't looked good. He's only gotten 5 targets each game. But the point I think that's important to make here is Seattle's pass rush, it's not very good. We're seeing what they're giving up to receivers. And Dak just hasn't had time really to get Gallup deep in his first 2 weeks. He's going to have time to get Gallup deep. He's going to hit on at least, if you have a prop somewhere where you can take the over-under on longest reception for Gallup, if it's like 20, 25, you're probably taking the over on that. So that's probably a really good bet. And then on the other side of this game, Chris Carson, 20.5. I don't know if the books, the odd makers yet haven't caught up to Carson's usage now in the passing game, but he's getting 4 to 5 targets a game now. And so I think it's safe to say that he's probably going to average somewhere around 25 to 30 yards on the season per game. So in another high-scoring affair, I think it's safe to say 20.5 is a good line. So that's a 1-unit play for me this week.
And, when he's clearly their pass-catching back, and if this game's going to be so back and forth, he only had 3 targets last weekend, but we saw 6 in week. This is kind of the game that I'm expecting, this 38 to 25 kind of wild game. I guess both games were kind of wild, but he's been over this number two times. And he's caught touchdowns too, so he's a vital part of their offense throwing the ball when they get close to the end zone. So I think, you could literally bet all of these overs and feel good about it. The one, Cooper at 70.5 and Lockett 69.5, those are high end. But both those guys have gotten over those yard totals, I think, in both games this year so far. Yep. So we'll have to look at the passing yards for the quarterbacks in this one, but we might even want to bet the overs on those.
All right, so give me your favorite play from that group. You got a lot of guys you like, but give me your favorite play from the Cowboys-Seahawks game.
CD Lamb at 60.5, just because he's been operating so well out of the slot. Let's take a look at his numbers too. So he's currently like wide receiver. Where is he on this list? I'm just missing him. So he's wide receiver 29 on the year, but he's had 59 and 106 so far on the season against the Rams. I mean, it was 17-20. That was not really an ideal passing script. So this is a bad game from CD Lamb, and he got 59. But if you think about this Atlanta 40-39 game, that's kind of like what the outcome could be of this week's game. So he saw 9 targets, 6 catches, 106 yards. And I just think out of the slot, Dak Prescott's going to keep feeding him. So he only needs 5 or 6 catches. I think I'd like Michael Gallup just as much, though, too, because we talked about the lack of pass rush. They're probably going to want to get Michael Gallup going downfield at some point to kind of just revitalize him. And one catch from him could go for 60 yards, like
Absolutely, yeah.
I feel like that with everybody in this game, though. Like one catch, they could get their prop bet.
There's a lot of juiciness here for sure. It's a lot of juiciness.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even really talk much about Lockett and DK Metcalf, but they are clearly the two. Like they're just if Russell Wilson's throwing the ball, it's going to one of those two guys pretty much. Besides a target or two to Chris Carson or David Moore. But just on pure volume alone, I think these guys could hit these numbers by halftime.
Absolutely, yeah. The Seahawks are a great DFS play, and they're a great prop bet play because they have a target funnel. I mean, it's DK, it's Tyler Lockett, and then it's Chris Carson out of the backfield. And then maybe Will Dissly gets going at some point this year, but not quite yet.
I think if you're doing DFS lineups, you almost have to make a Russ stack and you have to make a Dak stack and just try to come up with a couple different variations of those lineups.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything in the Packers-Saints game, I'm really not too excited to bet anything on this game.
I'm actually really disappointed that there's no Aaron Jones lines because I probably would take the overs on those.
I don't get maybe they were waiting.
Aaron Jones rushing or receiving yards, you have to almost put it close to 50 yards. Like if without Devontae Adams, like he's their number one receiver.
Yeah, I would bet it's around Kamara's at 47.5. It might be like 48, 49 or something, but somewhere in this range. But I really don't feel good about any of this. This game's kind of it's super hard to predict with no Michael Thomas, no Devontae Adams. I think I'd rather just sit on the sidelines and just enjoy the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no convictions here. Traquan Smith, I can maybe argue a play, but I'm not playing it, so I'm not going to argue it.
Well, I would imagine Jair Alexander is going to get Traquan Smith. Maybe Kevin King gets Emmanuel Sanders. Like, the Packers are pretty fluid, and the secondary is probably the best part of the Packers defense.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of not interested. And then for the Chiefs Ravens, I was looking at these bets too, and I'm like, I don't know if I can bet on this game. I think I'm gonna sit on the sidelines and just watch the game.
Yeah, I agree. Monday Night Football for me, maybe if I had a great weekend, I'll revisit these lines on Monday and just throw some fun money down.
51.5 maybe.
Yeah, right. Marquise looks kind of nice. I mean, Mark Andrews at 34. Is that 34.5 yards? I mean, that seems pretty good.
54.
54. Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. See, none of these feel too great right off the bat. Again, this could be just a game to kick back and watch. Or if you had a good weekend, you come back and you pick your favorite one and go for it.
Okay, and then I guess we kind of talked briefly about any rushing props. I think the one that stuck out to me was the David Montgomery 53.5. I think the Bears offense is going to be able to do what they want. The Atlanta practice report looks very lengthy. They're missing their starting safety. They're missing one of their starting cornerbacks. They're probably without their best pass rusher, Tapp McKinley. They're going to probably be missing a linebacker. Dante Fowler's questionable. It's just everything's coming up. Bears offense should be very good this weekend. And I think 53.5 is pretty low for Montgomery. If he gets 15 to 20 touches, like that seems like a good bet there.
That's not a phrase I think I would have heard you say this year.
That's why it feels like I don't like to bet on the Bears. I've been a David Montgomery kind of hater for the last year and a half, but he's played really well the last 2 weeks. And 53.5 yards, that just seems too too low. Let's take a look at his stats real quick.
Yeah, I would agree with that, though. I have a half unit on Monty over 53.5 rushing yards. It seems like a good script for the Bears to kind of buckle down on defense, see if they can limit the Falcons and try and run the ball.
It's not coming up right now.
That said, I'm pretty sure Khalil Mack was listed as questionable, so that's something to monitor.
Yeah, I did see that. That game's going to probably be on the fast track.
Yeah. So I really like the Cohen receiving yards. I think, if there's a week to use them, this is going to be the week for him to come on, to go for 40, 50 yards.
Were there any other rushing props? I guess the one rushing prop that stuck out to me was I'll think about doing Jonathan Taylor at 77.5 yards. He's probably going to.
So it looks like we lost Kyle Bauer here, the fellow KGB, having connection issues. If you're still here, I'm still alive and with you. I'm kind of wrapping up these rushing yards. I think he was going to talk about maybe Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor looks good this week. The Colts are going to be basically trying to control the tempo. And 77.5 yards, easy for him to hit. He hit it last week. He can hit it again this week. He's a very bad Jets team in general. 11-point favorites. That just favors ground and pound, baby, all day. The other one that I know he liked was Kyler Murray. I believe he's at 39.5 rushing yards. I think I could set the record this year for rushing yard total for a quarterback. Would not be surprised to see him hit over that. I personally do not bet either of those, but KGB might feel convicted of one of those. Other than that, I really focus on these receiving yard plays and sometimes receptions. This week I really gravitated towards the receiving yard lines. I thought a lot of good ones. So my top plays for the day, it's going to be Terry McLaurin, 62.5 receiving yards. Got 1.5 units on that. I have Baker under passing yards. I'm always going to take that until he proves me otherwise. Oh, KGB, are you back?
Did you hold the fort down for a little while?
Yeah, I just started rambling for a little bit,
All right, rambling man. All right, ramble on. Where were you at?
I was just talking about my top plays, just kind of recapping the things that I like the most. I let my third and final conviction play, the strong conviction play of the day, was the Godwin 58.5. I think we both like that one. I mentioned the Jonathan Taylor, just a great script. They're 11-point favorites. And then I also highlighted that you were talking about Kyler Murray and rush yards. So if you want to touch on that a little bit.
I mean, 39.5 just seems too low for Kyler Murray right now. I think I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure through 2 weeks, he's at a greater pace than Lamar Jackson was last year, which is just outrageous. So I just want to pull up his numbers through 2 games real quick. He's rushed 91 yards and 67 yards. Like, why is it at 39.5? Why? They just want to give us money. I know that you can already see the odds are going up there at 124, so you probably need to lock those in pretty quickly because I could see those getting less in our favor. But other than that, I think I don't really like betting on rushing overs or unders.
So that 125. So to go back to that Kyler Murray line. So this is great. If you're on DK, if you're not familiar with DK, this is what you do. You sign up. You go to the opt-ins. You opt in for week 3 boosts. You get 1 boost per game. You go to Kyler Murray. You take that minus 124, and you get a boosted 20. You get 20% boost. So you're probably looking at minus 104. So you just you're right back to.
So it's a free 20 points on any bet.
It's 20% of what it's a 20% profit boost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's only one bet on so that's with 20% profit boost on every week 3 game.
So you get 1 boost per game. So you can do 12 games, 12 boosts.
Wow. I need to drive to Illinois tonight. Oh no.
Yeah, so that Kyler Murray line, I'll probably boost into that one. He convinced me. He looks good out there. He had a couple fun touchdowns last week.
There was I really don't like betting on touchdown over-unders either, but when I first glanced at this, all the quarterbacks are set at 1.5 touchdowns besides Matt Ryan, who's 2.5 over, 2.5. And then the other quarterback that stuck out that was not at 1.5 was the Sam Darnold New York Jets at 0.5. So they don't even think he's going to get a touchdown. But from all the odds that I liked, and we kind of already talked about Terry McLaurin at the top of the show, the guy with the best odds, I think, to get 2 touchdowns is Dwayne Haskins. He's plus 168. So this presents probably your biggest reward for making a bet. 168. I could probably see the odds here if I took that real quick. But yeah, if you bet $100, you're gonna get what, 268. Is that how that works?
Yeah, that could actually be a fun little parlay. So if you believe in McLaren this week, do the McLaren over prop and then take the Haskins, TD or yard prop. It could be a fun little Redskins parlay. I don't parlay. I haven't done. I do parlay occasionally. I haven't taken anything yet this year. So just trying to get comfortable on these player props.
I'm trying to think. Wasn't there a touchdown prop or two that you wanted to discuss? Hey, Robert Owens is hanging out in the chat today. What's going on, man?
What's up, Rob? Yeah, no DK yet, man. Come down to Illinois. You can actually drive across the border, put your bets in, and then go back home.
So we're going to drive to Illinois tonight, Rob. Are you down? So you were talking about touchdown scorer bets. Is there something that stuck out to you?
Nothing. It's fun to just kind of, find a guy that you like to score this week, and then just throw first touchdown. DK does a thing you can opt into. You can bet on who's going to score the first touchdown of a game. If they don't score the first touchdown, but they score a touchdown in the game, you get your money back up to $20. So if there's a guy that you feel confident about scoring, you can obviously take the straight up odds. But if he gets the first touchdown, it's such a nice boost, and then you get your money back. So you're kind of hedging yourself a little bit.
So yeah, I'm not. That's hard for me to say I want to bet some guy to score first, but I'm looking at some of these odds. And a guy like David Montgomery is plus 125 just to score 1 touchdown tomorrow. That seems pretty strong. I like James Conner. He's at plus 140. I could see him falling in for a touchdown or 2 tomorrow. Maybe he would be the guy that I'd say, hey, maybe he's the one that scores first. That might be an option. Miles Sanders at negative 162. Miles Sanders is going to have a day tomorrow, guys.
It's going to be a fun. Yeah.
Trying to think. No, Deshaun Jackson at plus 165. He's got plus 1100 for first touchdown odds. So maybe they just open and uncork one, the second or third play of the game. I can see something like that happening.
You get 2 good Miles Sanders runs in a row, play action at Jackson.
I want to look at that Seattle. Here, let's look at McLaurin's touchdowns. McLaurin is down here at plus 210. Holy crap.
Fun.
Ooh, that could be a good one there. He's probably going to score tomorrow, so I think I might lean into that a little bit. The one game that I wanted to look for, though, was Seattle-Dallas, just to see those touchdown odds. Where are we? Right here. So they got Ezekiel Elliott, number 1, Carson 2, Metcalf at negative 115.
Wow.
CeeDee Lamb at plus 210. Is he going to get his first career touchdown tomorrow?
That seems decent. I also look at Michael Gallup down there, plus 285, plus 2,200 first touchdown. I might throw my opt-in bet there.
I'm interested in that one. Very interested.
That's fun.
Maybe I would throw some money at Gallup first to score, and then I would throw some money at CeeDee Lamb to score at some point. That seems pretty likely. Metcalf and Lockett, one of them is going to score, maybe even both, multiple times.
How many times is Dak going to rush for 3 touchdowns in a game?
Right, yeah, those are going to be all.
It's not going to happen.
They're all going back to the receivers. The Aaron Jones is negative 182. That guy is going to score a touchdown for sure. You probably don't want anything to do with that bet. Marquez Valdez-Scantling at plus 1,050 first score tomorrow.
Plus 135 to score. That seems.
That feels like he's going to score, doesn't it?
That makes confidence that he's going to score, but I don't know if I have that much confidence.
That's what's cool is the more that I look at these lines, you can kind of see how they think the games are going to go tomorrow, and you're just like, oh yeah, that guy's got good odds to score, so you're kind of feeling it for your team.
Yeah.
One more, the Chiefs and the Ravens. First guy to score, Travis Kelce's at plus 115 to score just overall, and plus 950 to score 5. That seems pretty likely.
Yeah. Kelce to score always feels good, doesn't it?
Nothing really else sticks out here. Were there any other, categories or things you wanted to look at, or passing yards? We kind of talked about those a little bit, but I don't really know if I like betting on passing yards.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you have if you feel really strong about a game or a certain player, I'm just going to keep taking Baker under. I mean, it's just, I came into Baker and I loved him. I thought he was going to be great. And he ended up on the Browns, and that's just where quarterbacks go to die. So, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, really sticks out for passing yards on the over. Tom Brady at 252.5. He's got Godwin and Evans back. I could see that being this could be the first game that we see the entire Tom Brady led offense click. So I'm kind of open to that one maybe being an over.
Yeah, where's Prescott at here? Whew.
Shite. This is going to be a good game,
They
people.
won a 3-0 for him.
It's going to be a very good game. They've allowed 731 yards just to receivers. That's not even including tight ends or running backs. So I can only imagine they're probably allowing 800 to 900 yards through the air so far through 2 weeks.
Pretty crazy.
So I guess that's part of the parlay. If you want to stack some of the receiver bets with the Dak Prescott, maybe you do that.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, you just play these props like you would play fantasy. I mean, it's intuitive for guys who've been playing fantasy for years to just come on over. You see a stat line, you think, McLaurin 62. So what are you saying? He's only going to have like 12, 13 points. I'm feeling he's going to have more like 18 or 19. So you feel you take that line and maybe make yourself a quick $20
easily. And it feels like you're playing fantasy football just with your money. So I think, the last 2 weeks have probably been I've done some prop bets in the Super Bowls before, but I think people are starting to catch on that, hey, it's kind of easy to win some of these prop bets, and it's almost more fun than like betting on the outcome of the game or to be honest, this has kind of been more fun for me than actual DFS lineups. I've been somewhat successful in DFS this year, but the prop bets are a little bit more exciting because you just kind of get to cheer for your guys and you don't have to worry about a lineup. So
yeah, you don't need like 8, 9 pieces to all hit. Right. You just need one guy to hit his mark, and that's all. That's what it boils down to. I mean, it's nice to not to worry about fantasy points so much as just looking at one specific stat and feeling good about that stat and just running with it. So yeah, I've been picking up these props a lot. Try to do 5 or 6 a week, and it's a fun new little thing. It's gonna be catching on. It's gonna get hot, and right now the bookies are not very good at setting these lines. So
especially for rookies, I think the rookies have been the one that they struggle with. That's why I like hitting the CD Lambs. Mm-hmm. I would have probably been interested in Jerry Jeudy if he wasn't hurt, but a lot of these rookie receivers are going to be interesting. KJ Hamler, I wonder if they're going to upload some of his numbers. But there's so much to look at here, but I think it's safe to say we like the receiving, over-under props for yards, and we're kind of interested in a few of the rushing props as well. Some of the touchdown props are fun, but I don't know. I think we're going to try to do this maybe Friday nights, Saturday nights, maybe even Sunday morning. We'll try to get this player prop podcast in. But any other parting thoughts, Jesse?
I think that's it. I think this is just a new wave. It's going to take over, I think, DFS for the casual DFS player. I think long term, they're going to go casually to this kind of prop betting. It's easier. It's not so much stress. You're not sweating out hoping to win $1 million. But, if you can turn 20, 40 into 70, 80, it feels good.
And I don't want to say it's easier than other bettings, but if you're an intuitive fantasy football player and you kind of know what a player can and can't do, I think prop bets and these DraftKings, these points bets apps, a lot of these player prop things are going to start taking off, and we're going to probably see a domino effect of a lot of states realizing, hey, there's a lot of tax revenue and a lot of other perks from allowing these gambling sites to operate. So. I think we're just getting started here, and it's going to be, I don't know, let's try to do this once a week going forward. But I don't know. I just want to thank whoever's been hanging out, especially Robert Owens. We'll talk to you later.
Robbie Owens.
Yeah, you can follow Jesse on Twitter at theFellowJGM. I'm on Twitter as well as at theFellowKGB. Thank you for hanging out with us. Good luck in week 3, and we'll see you in another video. Peace.
Let's win some money.